Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and did you ever wonder what Randy Bachman did right after the Guess Who?
In a rock and roll band, 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 in a rock and roll band. The drummer keeps time for the singer. The singer is doing his favorite song. The sound is a tight one for the hall, and they're building a wall of sound. The bass player's growing his hair. He says that he's found his place in life, and he proves with the others on the stage. In a rock and roll band, with a rock and roll music. In a rock and roll band, with a rock and roll music. In a rock and roll band, 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 in a rock and roll band. The DJ's playing the record. He says that they're gonna be big someday if they just stick together for a while. In a rock and roll band, with a rock and roll music. In a rock and roll band, with a rock and roll music. In a rock and roll band, with a rock and roll music. In a rock and roll band, with a rock and roll music. In a rock and roll band, 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 in a rock and roll band.
So that was the track Rock and Roll Band from the first album by Brave Belt. So this was the band Randy Bachman started right after the Guess Who. He used, well, you're going to notice some people that appear in Bachman-Turner Overdrive, but the initial lineup included Bachman, his former Guess Who bandmate Chad Allan. He was on vocals and keyboards. Robbie, who was on drums. Randy Bachman handled bass duties for their debut album while the group searched for a permanent bass player. That bass player ended up being CF Fred Turner in 1971. So we're going to feature another track off the second album, Brave Belt 2. This does feature a CF Fred Turner on vocals. We're going to listen to the song Summer Soldier. You know how this works. We'll turn back around. Let us know what you think.
Empty sidewalk, gone with the plague. The summer soldier, hot
So I want to mention on that final Brave Belt record, that featured Randy Bachman, his brother Rob, Chad Allan, and C.F. Turner. So that's almost Bachman-Turner Overdrive. So what had happened is that they had financial challenges, they had commercial challenges, didn't really take off. They recorded demos for what was supposed to be Brave Belt 3, but with new management, rebranded them Bachman-Turner Overdrive in 1973. So there you go, that's how it ended. All right, we will see you on the next one. Please subscribe, please like, let me know what you like, and we will circle back on the next episode. We'll see you.